The Marvel Cinematic Universe is teeming with superheroes who we're all programmed to believe are perfect, righteous men and women. But is there actually a single one of them who hasn't, at some point in their life, done something terrible? When you look deep into it, it seems the answer is a resounding
No.
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 Of course, in many of these cases, the characters in question were controlled, manipulated, or simply unaware that they were doing anything considered bad, but that doesn't change the fact that they've done wrong. To highlight this, we're going to look at some of the occasions the MCU heroes have done wrong. Let's start with Avengers Endgame and then work backwards. The epic 2019 movie ended with Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Captain America himself, going back in time to return the Infinity Stones to their original timelines after the Avengers had used them to undo Thanos' snap. But Rogers didn't come back. He stayed in the 1940s to live out a happily married life with Haley Atwell's Peggy Carter. And he did deserve that happy ending, there's absolutely no doubt about that. He didn't ask to be woken up in 2011 after all. But the fact that he abandoned his Avengers buddies without even warning them was pretty selfish and not what we've come to expect of the normally honest and righteous super soldier.
Come on!
When Thanos snapped his fingers and wiped out half of all life in the universe in 2018's Avengers Infinity War, Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton suffered terribly as his wife, daughter, and 2 sons all turned to dust. That's obviously devastating, but Clint's reaction to it, as depicted in Avengers Endgame, was pretty horrific. Barton went on a global murder spree, taking out large groups of criminals in countries as far away as Japan, where he massacred several members of the Yakuza. 2019's Captain Marvel movie revealed that Carol Danvers had been taken from Earth in 1989, having been imbued with cosmic power from the Tesseract. She was taken to the Kree world of Hela, and she was reconditioned into working as a Kree soldier, eventually joining the elite Star Force. Although she didn't know it, this meant she was working on the side of evil, and had no doubt killed dozens, if not hundreds, or even thousands of innocent Skrulls over the years, as she'd been brainwashed to believe that the mostly peaceful race were actually dangerous and malevolent. Danvers switched sides as soon as she became aware of the truth, but what she'd done alongside the Kree must still haunt her. Avengers Infinity War saw Thanos fighting with the MCU's heroes all over the universe. The combination of Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, and Nebula had managed to subdue the prune-chinned villain and were on the verge of removing the Infinity Gauntlet, which had 4 stones in it at the time, from his left hand. However, it was at that point Gamora's death was revealed, prompting Chris Pratt's Peter Quill to lose his temper and attack Thanos, which brought him to his senses and allowed him to escape the hero's clutches, essentially dooming the universe, allowing the Mad Titan to collect the final 2 stones and execute the decimation.
Oh no.
In 2018's Black Panther movie, Winston Duke's M'Baku was introduced as the leader of the Jabari tribe, a group of Wakandans who had removed themselves from mainstream society and opted to shun the high-tech world that had been created using vibranium. He hated T'Challa, and even challenged him for the throne of Wakanda at Warrior Falls, but was defeated. His hatred for Chadwick Boseman's character was palpable and quite frankly needless, making him seem like a rather nasty individual. But he went on to redeem himself, saving T'Challa's life after his first fight with Killmonger, helping him to defeat Michael B. Jordan's character and fighting side by side with the MCU's heroes against Thanos' forces in both Infinity War and Endgame.
A life for a life. Consider it paid.
Up until 2017, Sir Anthony Hopkins' Odin had been portrayed as a wise and benevolent king of Asgard.
We are not gods. We're born, we live, we die, just as humans do.
But Thor Ragnarok, the movie in which his life actually came to an end, revealed that he had previously been something of a ruthless warlord who had no qualms whatsoever about violently conquering the 9 realms with his powerful daughter Hela at his side. Although he subsequently came to the realization that peace and unity was the better for the 9 realms to coexist, this doesn't change the fact that in his younger days, he was something of a tyrant. Thor Ragnarok also revealed the Hulk's whereabouts after he left the Earth 2 years earlier in Avengers Age of Ultron. The Green Goliath was on Sakaar, where he was the champion fighter in the Grandmaster's gladiatorial arena. Now, we're not saying it was Hulk's fault. The Grandmaster captured his fighters and then forced them to participate in his contest of champions, but the fact is, Bruce Banner's alter ego was loving his time as the champion. He was killing people on a regular basis and enjoying every second of it. 2016's Captain America Civil War was all about infighting within the core Avengers group. The fact that those 12 heroes resorted to an actual physical brawl at an airport in Stuttgart was really stupid, and it resulted in James Rhodes losing the ability to walk and several others being arrested and subsequently imprisoned. There are better ways of settling differences, and a group of heroic and intelligent individuals should really have known that. Of course, the reason the Civil War happened in the first place was because of the Sokovia Accords.
I'm trying to keep you from tearing the Avengers apart. You did that when you signed.
Having been confronted by the mother of a young man who was killed during the Avengers battle with Ultron in Sokovia, Tony Stark was easily persuaded to sign them, meaning he agreed with the idea that the Avengers should operate under the jurisdiction of the government. Steve Rogers, however, felt that they should be allowed to go about their superhero business unsupervised in spite of all the collateral damage and death that their fights had caused. That's highly irresponsible of Rogers, and of course, 5 other superheroes were persuaded to join his team, which resulted in the brawl we just spoke about in the previous entry. Prior to becoming a sorcerer in his 2016 titular movie, it's hard to think of a moment when Benedict Cumberbatch's Stephen Strange was anything other than an unpleasant person.
There are other things that can give your life meaning.
Like what? Like you?
He got into a terrible car accident that ruined his hands and, in turn, his career, but it was his own stupid fault. He was talking on his phone while driving and took his eyes off the road while traveling at high speed, all thanks to his arrogance. In 2015's Ant-Man movie, we saw Paul Rudd's Scott Lang being released from prison, having been incarcerated for refunding $4 million to customers the corrupt VistaCorp had been stealing from. With a young daughter, Cassie, on the outside world, he intended to stay on the straight and narrow and took a job at a Baskin-Robbins. But after he was fired when Baskin-Robbins discovered his past, he took on the first illegal job that he was offered. What an idiot. Now granted, it all worked out for the best in the end, but it could very easily have resulted in Lang being put in prison and Cassie growing up without her father in her life, and that was wholly irresponsible on Scott's part. 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron saw our favorite MCU heroes going up against the evil titular robot, but he was a problem of their own creation. Specifically, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark and Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner.
It's not a human mind, man. I mean, look at this.
Stark in particular were looking to make the world safer by creating a powerful AI to protect it, but their tampering with the Mind Stone, an item that perhaps they had no right to be tampering with, resulted in Ultron being born.
How could you be worthy? You're all killers.
It was both naive and irresponsible of the science bros to mess with it. The mid-credits scene of 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier revealed that Hydra were experimenting on volunteers with Loki's scepter, which of course has since been revealed to contain the Mind Stone. While a number of the volunteers died, 2 of the successful subjects were Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, who went on to become Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver as a result. Both of the twins would eventually become Avengers, albeit briefly in Pietro's case, as he was killed fighting Ultron in Sokovia, but the fact they initially chose to be experimented on and fight on Hydra's behalf doesn't exactly portray them in a good light. In fact, it was a pretty stupid and evil thing to do, regardless of their circumstances. Rocket and Groot are 2 of the most likable characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, yeah.
But there's no getting away from the fact that they used to live a life of crime, as 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy movie showed. The pair would do whatever they could to make a bit of money, steal things, kidnap people, or even kill them. Even now, they're always looking to make a quick and easy buck.
We're all very fascinated, Whitey, but we'd like to get paid.
But generally, their intentions are better and their actions are purer these days. Drax's backstory is a truly tragic one. Dave Bautista's character suffered terribly as Thanos and Ronan the Accuser decimated his planet, with his wife Hovat and his daughter Chimeria murdered. Understandably, Drax was devastated, and he went on a murderous rampage across the galaxy that resulted in him becoming known as the Destroyer and ending up being imprisoned. But he didn't kill Ronan or Thanos during the rampage, so he must have been killing any random person he came across, which is inexcusable in any circumstances and, quite frankly, made him as bad as Thanos and Ronan.
What?
Now, if there was ever a case of characters only being awful because of circumstances outside their control, it's the case of adopted sisters Gamora and Nebula. Both characters saw their planets decimated by Thanos, and were subsequently taken against their will and brought up by the Mad Titan as his daughters, then trained to be the most elite henchwomen and assassins.
As a child, my father would have Gamora and me battle one another in training.
But that doesn't change the fact that, for many years, the characters played by Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillan traveled the galaxy doing despicable things on behalf of their prune-chin patriarch. Peter Quill had a terrible day back in 1988 when his mother passed away, and he was immediately abducted by the Ravagers and taken into space. He then grew up with the Ravagers and became an intergalactic outlaw. He wasn't the only member of that group who can now be considered a hero, however. The likes of Michael Rooker's Yondu Udonta and Sean Gunn's Kraglin also used to be pretty terrible individuals.
Now, who again is this buyer of yours?
Before they saw the light and turned to the good side, which ultimately resulted in Yondu sacrificing himself for the greater good. In 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Steve Rogers found a new friend in Sam Wilson. It's fair to say Sam's first impression of Bucky Barnes weren't great, and they were fighting on opposite sides in their first meeting. But the fact is, Sam continued to needlessly hate Bucky 2 years later in Captain America: Civil War.
Just like that, we're supposed to be cool? What did I do?
In fact, they were fighting on the same team, so Sam should definitely have gotten over his hatred of Bucky quicker. Thankfully, they're friends now.
You couldn't have done that earlier?
I hate you.
Of course, the reason Sam Wilson hated Bucky Barnes so much in the first place was because he was, in fact, the titular Winter Soldier in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier was Hydra's deadliest assassin.
Your work has been a gift to mankind.
And was created when the evil organization plucked the near-dead Bucky out of the icy river Danube during the Second World War. They subsequently saved his life, gave him a version of the super soldier serum and a metal arm, and brainwashed him to do their bidding on command. Bucky obviously couldn't help that, but the fact is he spent more than 70 years killing people on command, and it took a long time for Steve Rogers to get through to him, even though they were best friends growing up.
Because I'm with you to the end of the line.
We now come to the one instance of true mind control in this list, and the unfortunate victim was Clint Barton, when Loki used his scepter, which contained the Mind Stone, to gather henchmen in his quest to open a portal for the Chitauri. The hero went on to kill dozens of innocent people, and even took one of the helicarrier's engines out. He felt terrible afterwards, asking Natasha Romanoff how many people he'd killed.
How many agents did I get?
Though she wouldn't tell him, which is fair enough as it was beyond his control. In 2011's Thor movie, the titular God of Thunder was about to be crowned King of Asgard when the coronation ceremony was interrupted by the Frost Giants. Against Odin's wishes, Thor retaliated by traveling to the Frost Giants' home realm to confront them, and instead of just speaking to them, he attacked them, ruining a long-standing peace agreement and reigniting the ancient war between Asgard and the Jotunheim. In 2010's Iron Man 2, Tony Stark, at his birthday party, got drunk while wearing his Iron Man armor.
The cake we didn't blow out the candle.
You're out of control, okay?
And even used its weapons when his guests were present. Having that amount of power at his disposal when he was inebriated was a really stupid and irresponsible move. Another example of an MCU hero doing terrible things that were no fault of their own is Natasha Romanoff. Romanoff was recruited by the KGB, who raised and trained her in the Red Room. She was trained to become an assassin, and she didn't care who she used her skills on.
Agent Romanoff is comfortable with everything.
In her own words,
I got red in my ledger. I'd like to wipe it out.
Clint Barton was sent to kill her, but he made a different call, and the rest is history.
You know what it's like to be unmade.
When Tony Stark died, he'd long been in a relationship with Pepper Potts, and they even had a daughter together. Tony respected Pepper, but he really didn't used to care about women at all.
You ever lose knowledge sleep your whole life? be prepared to lose a few with you.
With Leslie Bibb's Christine Everhart being a prime example. He had completely forgotten her name by the time Iron Man 2 was released 2 years later.
Christine Everhart from Vanity Fair. You guys know each other?
Hi.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, roughly.
We do.
Stark's legacy is that of a hero who, quite literally, sacrificed his own life to save the universe. But it could have been quite different. Before the days of the Avengers, he was the somewhat ignorant CEO of Stark Industries. While he was always undoubtedly a genius, he used to be completely carefree as far as his company's business dealings were concerned. And that meant he was responsible for countless atrocities. But Tony didn't care because he was making lots of money from them.
I'm sorry, this is the fun V. The humdrum V is back there.
When he learned about it, he personally put an end to the terrorist threat, but that certainly didn't bring their victims back to life. Did you enjoy this video? Can you think of any other occasions when MCU heroes were the worst people? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great videos like this one. Come back soon.